Good morning. It's January 24th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. As we all know, immigration was one of the top issues in the last election. Heading into the election, polling showed that 8 out of 10 Americans saw illegal immigration as either a very serious, 61%, or somewhat serious, 23%, as a problem. Those numbers had dramatically increased from 4 years earlier, and most of that increase could be attributed to the policies of the Biden administration that was viewed by many Americans as basically opening the southern border. Estimates range from 5 to 10 million immigrants illegally crossed the border during the 4 years of Joe Biden, and I would say it's really on the upper end of that range. If you want to get a better understanding of this shift, you would find that 53% of Americans now support building a wall between the United States and Mexico, and that number has risen from only 44% during the first Trump administration. Most Americans now say that immigrants seeking political asylum at the border should be made to stay in Mexico while their claims are being processed. Once again, this number has greatly increased over the past 4 years. Well, not surprisingly, these numbers change based on the political party the respondents support. Republicans are more likely to support the policies being put in place by Donald Trump, while Democrats are more likely to oppose them. But even many Democrats are now realizing they were on the wrong side of the immigration issue and are seeing them change their opinion. Among blue-collar workers, Trump's policies are supported by even higher numbers than the overall population. And that was a major failure for Democrats to understand in the last election. Trump scored major gains among young voters and particularly young black voters. He also made major gains within the Hispanic community. Diving deeper into the polling, it was found that many of these voters view illegal immigrants as competing for them in the job market. Unscrupulous employers are willing to hire immigrants and pay them less, in many cases pay them under the table. These immigrants are willing to take these jobs because it will take any job they can get here in the U.S. Well, this week, Congress passed the Laken Riley Act requiring deportation of illegal immigrants accused of a crime. They named this law after a college student, Laken Riley, who was raped and murdered by a Venezuelan gang member who had no business in this country, and the Biden administration wouldn't own up to their mistakes. This made the voters mad, and they should have. Democrats and immigrant supporters have argued that the law is too broad because crimes like shoplifting should not have been included. But that begs the question, which laws should apply and which should not? Who's going to make that determination? If you're here illegally and you break the law, you're going. One of the most meaningful changes is one that Trump administration is re-implementing. In his previous administration, Trump issued the Presidential Proclamation 9822, which basically said that immigrants who bypassed the legal ports of entry and just crossed any place on the border were unable to claim asylum. Now, this move was stopped by the courts and was under appeal when Trump left office. The Biden administration simply dropped any effort to appeal or reinstate this process. By reinstituting this rule, Trump will have time to fully run through the courts. And if anyone is being honest with themselves, they fully understand the vast majority of illegal immigrants are not going to qualify for asylum because they're coming here for economic reasons. And I understand that. But without such a rule in place, immigrants simply claim political asylum, something they're well coached on by activists, and we've seen printed material handed out to immigrants on what to say when apprehended. And once they're released, it takes years for the case to wind through the immigration courts. Yesterday, ICE began its first actions in arresting illegal immigrants with criminal backgrounds. One such criminal shouted out how he loved Biden and Obama and hated Trump. He said he was not going back to Haiti. Guess what, he is. Overall, just under 500 criminal illegal aliens were arrested and are being prepared to be deported. And that's just in one day. So how did we get to this point where the public finally said enough was enough? The Biden administration could have done all of this, or it simply could have left in place Trump's border policies, which have reduced illegal immigration to record lows during his first term. As Tom Homan, Trump's incoming border czar, said recently of Biden's DHS Secretary Alexander Mayorkas, quote, "He inherited the most secure border of my lifetime. He just had to sit there and do nothing. He systematically destroyed that border. They knew exactly what they were doing when they destroyed that border," end quote. Mayorkas bragged about how many of the Trump-era policies Biden had rescinded, saying at the time in 2021, there are too many to count. How many times did we see Mayorkas and other Biden officials come before Congress and the media and tell the American public that the southern border was secure? The American public knew better because they could see it with their own eyes. Some Democrats are starting to realize just how badly they were on the wrong side of this issue. That was demonstrated with many Democrats supporting the Laken Riley Act. Nothing wakes up a politician more than counting votes. When they start counting them in their own district or state, they start thinking about changing their position. It just took a leader like Trump to call them out and force them to take a position. Don't believe me? Yesterday, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey started changing her tune. She now supports the apprehension of criminals that are here illegally. And that's a change from her previous opposition of any actions by ICE. She now says Massachusetts is not a sanctuary state, and that's news to a lot of people in the state. As I said, politicians are now starting to read the room, and many realize they better get their positions changed and stop the rhetoric. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, especially on YouTube, hit the subscribe button.